If I'd known that a primped-up suburbanite named Linda would one day waltz into our peaceful slice of countryside and shift my boundary markers under the cover of night, I might have started digging that trench a lot sooner. There she stood, with her polished nails and freshly dyed hair, wavooing at me from my side of the line like I was the one out of place. What Linda didn't realize, and what made it all so satisfying, was that I wasn't just some rural nobody in a faded plaid shirt with a questionable haircut. No, I had a fully functional backhoe, a county stamp deed older than she was, and plenty of patience for the kind of payback that smells like diesel and ends with a ditch deep enough to swallow her prized rosebushes whole. It all kicked off a few weeks earlier when the for sale sign vanished from the old Harper place next door. I figured someone would snap it up eventually, but I wasn't prepared for the leave-wying, breathing version of a homeowners association meeting to step out of a move-wying truck. From the start, Linda carried herself with an arrogance you could sense a mile off. Our first meeting was her tossing out a backhanded compliment about my land like you'd praise an awkward kid just to be nice. Her smile was all teeth, the kind people flash when they think they're above you but won't say it outright. I let it slide. Out here, we're used to city types showing up, expecting to live out some cozy TV fantasy. I wasn't fazed until she came strolling up my driveway a week later, casserole in hand and a scheme in her pocket. She started with the usual chit-chat, fake chuckles and all. But before the dish even cooled, she was dropping hints about adjusting the property line. Said it'd make our yards flow better, and that a few feet didn't matter anyway. I saw right through her but played along, thanking her for the food. The second she left, I checked my markers set in concrete, verified by the county surveyor back when my grandpa built the fence. Everything was fine. Or so I thought. 2 days later, walking the dogs along the fence, I spotted it. The markers weren't just tweaked, they'd been yanked 5 whole feet onto my land. Linda, with all the finesse of a parade, had hauled them over, tearing up my grass and wildflowers, then sprinkled some seed like I wouldn't notice. My temper flared, but I kept it in check. Out here, blowing up just means more mess to clean up later. That afternoon, I sauntered over to Linda's, acting like I hadn't clocked her land grab. She was fussing with some tacky plastic lawn ornaments, pretending she was designing a palace garden. When I mentioned the moved markers, she feigned surprise, gasping like I'd accused her of robbing a bank. "Oh, I don't know anything about that," she chirped, brushing me off. Maybe the wind? Unless a hurricane had a personal vendetta, no breeze was budging a concrete-anchored pin 5 feet uphill. I gave her a thin smile, nodded, and walked away. Instead of simmering, I took my deed, old survey maps, and Grandpa's notes to Sheriff Dan at the diner. Over coffee I laid it out. Dan, still sporting the same belt buckle from the 80s, flipped through my papers and grunted, "Ain't her first rodeo." I wasn't shocked people like Linda always think they're the sharpest tool in the shed. She probably pegged me for an easy mark. By the time I finished my pie, I had a plan brewing. No yelling, no lawsuits, not even resetting the markers. I'd make the boundaries so obvious no one could miss it, and I had the perfect tool rusting behind the barn. That night, sipping coffee on the porch under the stars, I couldn't help but laugh. Linda thought she'd snag a few feet of my land. She had no clue she was about to lose way more than that. Come morning, I'd be digging more than dirt. I'd be digging a lesson, one scoop at a time, that even she couldn't ignore. When I fired up the backhoe at dawn, the engine growled to life, shaking off dust like it was as pumped as I was. I pictured Linda's face when she saw I wasn't just patching a fence but carve-wying a trench right on the legal line, wide, deep, and impossible to miss. I'd barely scooped 3 loads when Linda came charging out, tracksuit clashing and a sleep mask shoved up on her forehead. She waved her arms like a frantic traffic cop. I cut the engine and leaned on the controls as she stormed up, practically shaking with fury. "What are you doing?" she screeched, half horrified, half panicked. "Just some landscaping on my property," I said, cool as could be. She snapped that I was ruining her lawn. I pointed to the trench. "Nope, all on my side. Sheriff's got the papers if you want to check." Her jaw dropped, but she rallied quick, puffing up with that fake swagger. "You can't dig holes like this. It's against the rules." I chuckled. "Funny, I don't recall signing up for your HOA. I revved the engine for good measure." Her face went as red as her wilting petunias. Word spread fast, and soon neighbors trickled in. Mr. Thompson in his beat-up truck, the Riley twins on bikes, then Ms. Clara from down the road. Within an hour, half the area was parked along the fence, sipping coffee and watching like it was a holiday show. Linda, used to city privacy, looked mortified that her meltdown was now public entertainment. "You're making a scene," she hissed, "but out here, whispers travel," and the crowd laughed. I kept digging, humming like it was any old day, each pass making the trench sharper and clearer. She wasn't done, though. That afternoon, a county code officer rolled up, clipboard in hand, looking worn out from dealing with people like her. Linda practically danced with glee, pointing at me. "He's destroying the land. Breaking codes. Ruining my yard's look." The officer barely glanced up. "Ma'am, I checked with the sheriff. Permits are clear. Trench is on his land. He's good." Linda blinked, stunned. "But it'll look ridiculous with a giant hole between us." He shrugged. "Not my problem." She stormed off, slamming her door so hard the windows rattled. The neighbors lost it, even Clara cracking a rare grin. Next morning I thought she'd cool off. No. Instead, I found legal papers taped to my Dora Civil complaint claiming I damaged her property, caused emotional distress, and humiliated her publicly. I sat on the porch, sipping coffee, shaking my head at her nerve. Suing me for digging on my own land? It was almost impressive how she twisted herself into the view item. I took it to Sheriff Dan, who chuckled at the distress part. "She's digging a bigger hole than you," he said. "Get the surveyor out to make it airtight for court." I was already on it. Havuaing called him the day Linda first hinted at the boundary shift. He'd be out by week's end with all the official stamps needed. That evening, as I deepened the trench, the neighbors returned with chairs and snacks. Clara even brought lemonade. Linda peeked through her blinds, realizing she wasn't just up against me but the whole town's amusement. By Friday, the surveyor arrived, a quiet guy with a thick folder and a no-nonsense VOIB. Linda hovered on her porch, arms crossed, eavesdropping as he measured and checked the old pins against his maps. When he finished, he handed me a fresh boundary map and said, "It's 6 feet over, not 5. I showed it to Linda like a winning poker hand. Her eyes bulged. Not only failed to steal 5 feet, but lost an extra foot of her precious lawn. She turned scarlet, stormed inside, and slammed the door so hard a shutter fell. I didn't stop at a trench. With that extra foot, I decided to turn it into a spring-fed pond, a perfect, poetic upgrade I'd always considered but never started. The neighbors loved it, pitching in with shovels, plants, and stones. Mr. Thompson brought lemonade, Clara baked a pie, and the Riley twins hauled rocks for Linda's pond border. It became less a dispute and more a community project. Linda, meanwhile, paced her porch, yelled into her phone, and glared at the growing pond like it had insulted her personally. One day, I caught her yanking out survey flags in a fit, only for the surveyor to replace them later, shaking his head. Then came the twist. Clara showed up one night with a flash drive and a grin. Turns out Linda wasn't just being pettish, listed her property online, claiming the extra 5 feet as hers to boost the sale price. Clara's nephew, house hunting, spotted it and grabbed screenshots before Linda scrubbed the listing. She planned to flip the place fast by shrinking my land on paper. I laughed so hard I nearly fell off the porch. This wasn't just entitlement, it was fraud. I showed Sheriff Dan, who smirked. "This'll be fun," he said. Word spread like wildfire. By noon, everyone knew about the fake listing and her land grab. The for sale sign vanished overnight. But I wasn't done. The pond finished up nicely, deep enough for ducks, frogs, and fish, with wildflowers blooming along the banks. The twins added a sign, "Linda's Creek, private property." Linda watched through binoculars, fuming as the neighborhood turned it into a celebration spot. She tried one last lawsuit, claiming the pond hurt her property value and natural beauty. Sheriff Dan handed me a county report. Her marker MOVYing had violat zoning laws, disturbed drainage, and earned her fines. The judge tossed her case, reminding her to respect boundaries. Her knees wobbled as the fines loomed. By summer, the pond thrived, while Linda's yard sag fence half-built, flamingos drooping, fine notice flapping on her door. Then, one sticky afternoon, a for sale sign popped up again. I smirked from the pond's edge, coffee in hand. She was done, but small towns don't forget. Without her, I might never have built that pond, a quiet win that brought us closer and left a story for the ages. As the sun set and frogs croaked, Sheriff Dan drove by, tipping his hat. I tipped mine back, leaned on the bench, and savored the VOW. The land was mine, the pond was perfect, and Linda? She was packing.